after his very first murder. He walked to a phone booth, picked up the receiver, and called the police to confess. The officer who answered didn't give his rank, didn't follow protocol, so Tkach hung up, put the receiver down, and went home. Over the next 25 years, he killed at least 37 people, possibly over 100. During that time, his neighbors looked at him and said, "You know, you look just like the sketch they're circulating. The wanted poster. That maniac they can't find." He smiled and said nothing. When police finally knocked on his door in 2005, he opened it, looked at them calmly, and said, "I've been waiting for you. 25 years." His name was Serhiy Tkach, a police investigator, a forensic expert, the man who trained to find killers because he planned to become one. This story contains detailed accounts of violent crimes. All events described are documented in official court records. Some details may be disturbing to sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. He was born in 1952. Kiselyovsk, a coal mining city in Siberia. Fourth child in a large family. A father who worked the mines and had no time for children. A boy who grew up small, withdrawn, invisible. To compensate, he lifted weights, became a junior champion, a candidate for Master of Sport. He had a future. Until one training session, he tore a tendon in his left hand. Career over. He joined the military instead. Served in the Arctic, the Bay of Tiksi on the Laptev Sea, decoding aerial photography. He loved the sea. Applied to the Sevastopol Naval Officers Academy. Passed every exam. Then, the medical board found a problem with his heart. Rejected. The blow was so severe, he tried to take his own life. They saved him, then discharged him. 2 dreams, 2 failures. He went back to Siberia and got a job catching stray dogs. While his colleagues used firearms, Tkach used a steel rod. He preferred to beat them to death by hand. His favorite part was skinning them afterward. He moved on. Joined the police. Trained as a forensic investigator at the Novosibirsk Ministry of Internal Affairs School. He was good, methodical, patient. His superiors noticed, recommended him for intelligence school, a serious career ahead. And then, 1979, caught falsifying evidence, fired, expelled from the school, the 3rd institution to throw him out. He moved to Ukraine in 1982. Different republic, different records. He walked into a police station and got hired again. No one checked his file. No one made a call. And this time, the forensic investigator became the subject of the investigation. Before each murder, he had a ritual. A glass of vodka, mixed with diphenhydramine, a sedative, enough to take the edge off, enough to feel in control. He never used public transport on those nights, always a bicycle. No trail, no witnesses, no pattern to follow. He wore gloves, always. He used a condom, always. He knew exactly what forensic teams collected at crime scenes, because he had collected it himself. He pressed the carotid artery, the main blood vessel in the neck, until his victims lost consciousness. Then he waited for the life to leave them, and then continued. When it was over, He cleaned the scene, erased footprints, took clothing, jewelry, personal items, everything that could identify him, gone. He left on his bicycle, along the railway tracks treated with fresh tar, so the dogs would never find a scent. Then he went home and talked to his dog. His first confirmed murder. 1980. Simferopol, Crimea. A young girl, 8 years old. He described later exactly what he did, how he strangled her, how he covered the body with earth and branches. In 2 years in Crimea, he claimed 5 murders. None were officially registered. Some victims may still be listed as missing persons to this day. After the very first one, he walked to a phone booth, called the police. He wanted to confess. He told the officer he was a former cop, expected the man on the line to identify his rank. Protocol. The officer didn't, so Tkach put down the receiver and decided they didn't deserve to know. He moved to eastern Ukraine in 1982, and the geography of his crimes began to expand. Pavlograd, Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk. Girls, young women, 8 years old, 17 years old. Found near railway lines, near empty lots, in riverbeds, in basements. He held jobs. He was married 3 times, had 5 children, came home to dinner tables, a husband, a father, a neighbor. And the murders kept happening. At some point, investigators compiled a sketch. It circulated through the cities where he lived and worked. His neighbors looked at the poster, looked at him, and told him, "Sergei, you look just like that man." He smiled, said nothing, and went back inside. The pressure on police was enormous. In Soviet Ukraine, an unsolved murder was not a mystery. It was a failure. Someone had to be guilty. So they found someone. Then someone else. One man was arrested because he walked home the same path as one of the victims. He had no grey hair. The composite sketch showed grey hair. The police didn't care. He refused to confess through beatings, through sleep deprivation, through days without food. Until they told him, "If you don't sign, we will harm your 2-year-old daughter. We will hurt your wife." He signed, served 4.5 years. That was one man. There were others. Yakov Popovich was 14 years old when they arrested him. He served 8 years. Mykola Marusenko had the mental development of a 5-year-old child. He had no physical capacity for the crime whatsoever. They forced a confession out of him anyway, describing in detail how he attacked and killed a girl. He was sent to a psychiatric institution for 3 years. And then there was Volodymyr Svitlichny. They charged him with the assault and killing of his own daughter. He never stood trial. He took his own life in his cell. Serhiy Tkach was later convicted of that crime. 11 men. 11 innocent people went to prison for crimes Serhiy Tkach committed. Some lost years. Some lost families. Some lost everything. One never made it out. And Tkach kept hunting. By the late 1980s, investigators had nothing. No suspect, no trail, no leads. They tried everything: task forces, undercover officers, regional cooperation. Nothing. And then, someone made a decision that tells you everything about how desperate they were. They consulted Vanga, the famous Bulgarian clairvoyant, the blind mystic who millions believed could see the future. She was brought in to help find the killer. She did not find him. No one did. For another decade, he kept everything: a shoe, an umbrella, a tube of lipstick, a doll, a dress, underwear. Each item from a different victim, a different city, a different year. A children's wristwatch, a music notebook belonging to a girl named Olia, killed in Pavlograd in 1984, 21 years before his arrest, still in his home. When investigators searched his house in 2005, one officer described it as a warehouse of evidence. Items from crimes spanning a quarter of a century. Items from across 4 regions of Ukraine. When Tkach realized they had found the box, his tone changed completely. He stopped performing innocence and began to confess. His last victim was 9 years old. Her name was Katya. She was the daughter of one of his friends. He took her while she was playing outside with 4 other children. Her body was found in a pond, hidden under a fallen branch. As police began investigating, Tkach was already planning his next move. He tried to frame Katya's own father for the murder. And then, he attended the funeral, walked through the doors, stood among the mourners, the family, the neighbors, the children. The 4 children who had been with Katya the day she disappeared. They looked around the room, and they saw him. They told their parents. Police were called. Officers drove to his house, knocked on his door. He opened it, looked at them, and said, "I've been waiting for you. 25 years." They brought him in, and within 2 days, he had written over 60 confessions by hand. Dates, locations, methods, details no one had asked for. He described each murder calmly. Investigators said he seemed almost relieved, like a man who had been carrying something unbearable and finally put it down. He claimed between 80 and 113 victims. He demanded the death penalty. Ukraine had abolished it. His psychiatrist assessed him and delivered a verdict that has stayed with this case ever since. He said, "Tkach killed to be the most famous killer of all." There is a term for this in psychiatry, the Herostratus syndrome, the need to destroy something just to be remembered for destroying it. Tkach was asked once what he would do if someone did this to his own children. He didn't pause. He said, "I would track them down and chop them like cabbage. I'm a maniac. I'm a serial killer. That's what I do." The trial lasted 3.5 years. The court confirmed 37 murders, 80 rapes, 11 attempted murders. In 2008, Serhiy Tkach was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms. He was transferred to prison number 8, Zhytomyr. He was impassive when the sentence was read. 2 years later, investigators from another case came to visit him. They needed help profiling a different serial killer still at large. Tkach agreed to assist, reviewed the files, and told them nothing useful. Then, a young woman from Russia read about him in the press. She began writing to him, visiting. She told journalists, "It's good that women are scared of him. Less competition for me." She married him in 2015. In 2016, they had a daughter he never met. This is where he lived. Zhytomyr prison number 8. A narrow vaulted room, peeling white walls, a small barred window, 2 bunk beds, a plastic water jug on the floor, and flower calendars pinned to the walls. The man who demanded the death penalty spent his final years looking at flowers. This is what he chose to put on his walls. Not his victims. Flowers. November 4th, 2018. Heart failure. Zhytomyr prison. His wife did not come. His children did not come. Not one relative made the journey. Prison staff buried him in an unmarked grave. That is how it ended for a man who spent 25 years demanding to be remembered. He wrote 100 confessions so the world would know his name. He kept a box of trophies for a quarter of a century. He called the police himself after the very first murder, because he wanted someone to acknowledge what he had done. And in the end, no one came. Not even the woman who said she loved him. An unmarked grave, in a city he had never lived in, for a man who never really existed, not to the people who should have found him, but very much to the ones he left behind.